Hello and good evening, everyone. This is Chinmay Pandya. I hope everyone is keeping fine, and those who are from Mumbai are keeping well and are safe due to the current weathers. And first of all, the apologies from our side as the lecture was about to start yesterday, but due to the weather issues, it has been delayed for a day. And yes, welcome everyone to this temple architecture series, which has been conducted by the School of Indian History. My name is Chinmay Pandya, and I'll be taking lectures from this ID of Shantanu Paranjpe. So I have already given my introduction in the group, but for those who have not been able to see it, I'll just repeat myself, or I'll just be quick. So by profession, I'm an archaeologist, which and I've pursued my masters from the MS University of Vadodara in Gujarat in archaeology. Currently, I am based in Bhopal, and in the vast field of archaeology, the this particular field of architecture and iconography are my expertise, in which I'm currently pursuing on for my PhD. Currently, I am working with the government of Madhya Pradesh for the Department of Archaeology and Museums, and currently based in Bhopal. So this was the small introduction from my side, and without any further delay, we'll be starting the lectures. So before I start today's lecture, the first lecture about this particular temple series. So am I audible enough to everyone, or are there any glitches from my side?
No, it's all good for me.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. So, if there are any if there are any particular voice issues or any kind of glitches from my side, then please let me know. And yes, before starting the lecture, the Q&A sessions will be conducted after the lecture has finished, and but it will not be only the discussion from my side. We will be discussing in between. So whenever I say unmute, or if I ask any particular questions in between, then you can unmute yourself and try to give the answer, or you can leave your answers in the chat box. So yeah, without any further delay, let us start with this first particular temple architecture topic, where we have to understand the concept and the meaning of the Indian temple architecture, or only a temple architecture. Now, now when we say temple architecture, temple can be anything. It can be a temple, it can be a stupa, it can be a church, it can be a mosque, it can be a Jain vihara, it can be Gurudwara, it can be any particular thing. A temple is a particular place where people gather for their own peace of mind, and that particular and that particular place where where the human soul interacts with the divinity, or comes into contact with the divinity. That particular place is called as temple. Since the Hindu temple architecture is there, that is why we will be going with the main concept of the temple. Is my pace correct? If I'm being way too fast or way too slow, then let me know. Then I'll be acting according towards it.
All
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, it's all good
Okay,
for
okay.
me.
So yeah, so before we start, the first question which can be raised is that what is the reason, or what was the reason behind creation of temples? As in, uh, every one of us have a small temple or a small idol or a picture or a photo frame of God. Most of us, or some of us might be keeping certain gods or goddesses wallpapers in the mobile phones, or even in the laptops or any kind of devices. So the divinity pictures which we see in our day-to-day life are the same idols which we see them in temples. So what, according to you, was the exact reason, or was the reason behind these temple creations? Can anyone try to guess the answer, or can anyone try to give the answer for that?
Like to have a community center where people can come together. Like it could have been more than just for a worshipping purpose, maybe for people to get together. Yeah.
Yes, in a way, it is correct, sir. Thank you. Soumya ma'am has given the answer: to let humans believe in something larger than them, Okay, in a way, this particular sentence does make sense. Anyone else who can try to give the answer, or anyone in the chat box?
Also to keep the routine and the rituals in the same place, like to fix it, some place for rituals.
The place of rituals, or that particular place where rituals are supposed to take place, you mean, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah. Last, as in, anyone else, as in the last answer?
Maybe as a place
Uh,
to communicate to the larger audience.
so your voice is slightly breaking. Can you repeat yourself?
So I'm saying that maybe it was a place from where people can communicate to a larger audience, and sermons can be given and things like that.
Okay, a place who can communicate the larger audience. Okay, that is also correct. Place for the village together and celebrate and socialize. Uh, Actually, temples are everywhere. It is as in they are not only in villages. Even in cities, the temples are there, and larger than life temples are there. But yeah, everyone's answer are correct, and they do make sense. Places for getting mental peace, again, that is true. But over here, the one thing which everyone, you, me, or any other third person, which keeps forgetting, because and that particular answer is very right in front of our eyes, is that the reason behind the temples were created, that was the concept of the enlightenment. Because temple architecture, so over here we have to see that temple is nothing but any other structural architecture, and the concept of architecture came to humans mind when the early man, or the prehistoric man, when we talk about stone age, he used to first live in the caves or mountains or any natural habitats. Then he started living into cave, because we call him as a caveman. But after that, a particular thought came to his idea that a particular architecture or a particular structure should be there in his life, which he can call it as a house. But after that, for the proper betterment or the understanding of life, or to understand the meaning behind life, the reason behind the life living, or to attain or achieve peace or enlightenment, the earlier reasons for were that through which the temples were created. And to support this particular concept, we should be understanding the concept of moksha. Yeah, I'll just let you know that this will be slightly theoretical part, because today we will be going with the concepts of certain theories, which make the temple as important structure in the human life. So, coming back to the topic, the concept of moksha. So, as we are very well aware that the Hindu tradition has the concept of moksha, which is the utmost or final aim of and aim of the human life. And there are four concept, or the four forms of moksha. The first three ones are dharma, that is the virtuous and proper moral life; artha, that is the material prosperity, income, security, and other means of life; kama, so kama is technically the sensual pleasures, worldly pleasures, emotional pleasures, fulfillment; and the fourth one is moksha. So with the concept of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, and with the four particular things which we are able to achieve and keep them into stable, that is the concept of the enlightenment or self enlightenment. And when we talk about the word moksha itself, so the earliest reference of moksha comes from the Upanishadic literature, which has the root meaning called muk, which means to free or to let go, or in a very simple way, to liberate. So, as we are very well aware that in the Hindu philosophy, or in many other world philosophies, life is not the process, or any particular cycle which takes place or happen between birth and death. Life is the never ending pilgrimage or never ending cycle. If a person is born, then he or she is certainly about to die. And when a person dies, again, that person might be born in some other particular place. So this never ending cycle of life and death birth and death keeps on happening, keeps on moving. But we also come across this particular concept on the other way, that to overcome this concept of life and death, and with the final piece, we should be having this particular concept, is that to get rid of this particular cycle, one should have the proper concept of moksha. As like I said, that in the Hindu philosophy, death is not the final destination. So the proper example can be seen from a particular literary evidence called Viveka Chudamani. So Viveka Chudamani says that Jati Niti Kula Gotra Durgam Nama Rupa Guna Dosha Varjitam Desha Kalam Vishaya Tivartiyat Brahma Tattvasi Bhava Yatmani, which particular means that liberation comes from life lived with inner purity, alert mind led by buddhi, that is the mental intelligence, realization of supreme life or supreme self, that is the Purusha or Purushartha, who dwells in all beings. And the same particular concept earlier is found in the Kataka Upanishad. There are 32 kinds of Upanishad which were composed from 4th century BCE onwards. And one particular Upanishad, that is Kataka Upanishad, asserts that knowledge is particular freedom. And it also explains the role of yoga in the personal liberation, moksha. And there are three particular concepts or forms of moksha too. So the three particular concepts are Vedic moksha, yogic moksha, and bhakti moksha. So when we talk about Vedic moksha, so over here we indirectly talk about the Vedic period of Vedic civilization, where the four Vedas, Rig Ved, Yajur Ved, Sam Ved, and Atharva Ved were composed. So in this particular concept, we come across that why Vedic moksha is important, because Vedic moksha was the ritualistic in nature. One of you had given the answer that temple is a place where the rituals are taken place. So over here, this particular concept of ritual or ritualistic purpose or ritualistic nature goes back or find its trace to the Vedic concept of moksha. Because when we talk about the Vedic moksha, or when we talk about the Vedic period in Indian subcontinent comes from 1500 BCE. So in that particular time era, the concept of temple or the concept of idol worship was not there, but the deities were there. And the main deity or one of the supreme deity was Agni, that is the fire god. And to worship a particular god or goddess, the nature-oriented god or goddess, was done only through the fire rituals. So that was the concept of the Vedic moksha. Then came the concept of yogic moksha, which replaced Vedic rituals with personal development and meditation, with certain hierarchical creation of the ultimate knowledge in self as a part of moksha. Yogic moksha principles were accepted in many other schools of Hinduism, albeit with differences. So when we talk about Upanishad, there are several texts in the Hindu literature, not only Vedas, but there are but the text through which we can understand the concept of the Vedic literature are the Upanishad, the Brahmanas, the Aryan caste, and so on and so forth. So over here we have to see that when we try to understand the concept of Vedic moksha, so the concept of life and how one can achieve the self-realization to the concept of yoga is also with the concept of moksha. And the best example can be seen as the role of Gautam Buddha. So Buddha, he was a prince, he was termed or he was called as Prince Siddhartha. And when he went to find the meaning of life, the concept of life, and when he achieved enlightenment, that was the yogic moksha, and he got converted, and the Gautam Buddha appeared. So from Siddhartha to Gautam Buddha was the concept of yogic moksha. Even in Jainism, the 24 Tirthankars are the 24 pillars of or Jainism, who have gained the mass responsibility and publicity through the concept of yogic moksha. Another particular concept of yogic moksha is that arthasya nishchayo rishto vicharano hitokti na snanena na danena pranaya maschatena va. So this particular concept or verse means that by reflection, reasoning, and instruction of teachers, the truth is known not by ablution, not by making donations, nor by performing hundreds of breath controlling exercise. In today's time, when we talk about the concept of yogic moksha, it is about that only through the proper yoga the moksha is achieved. But over here, we have to also be very peculiar in our behavior also. And teachers, when I gave the example of Buddhism and Jainism, Gautam Buddha was a teacher in starting. All 24 Tirthankars, they were teachers in the earlier who were replaced with the concept of divinity. This particular statement or verse has been taken from the same particular literary book called Vivek Chudamani, which was composed back in 8th century CE. Then the final concept came the Bhakti Moksha, which was created in the historical point of view, where neither rituals for meditative personification was required. And in this particular concept of moksha, the constant love and contemplation of God was only required, which was the perfect union with God. If we say that India is land of both gods and saints, monks and nuns. So over here, when we try to worship Krishna, automatically Mirabai comes into a picture. Mira was technically the princess, sorry, the queen of the Mewar kingdom in the medieval period. But her love for Krishna and her immense worship towards him made her the one of the prime markers of the Bhakti Moksha. Even certain Hindu philosophers like Adi Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhavacharya, these saints who had invoked the concepts of Vaishnavism, Shaivism, Shaktism, and the other concepts of the ritualistic purpose. So these people are regarded as the examples or the markers of the Bhakti Moksha. Then there are several particular concepts of how to attain moksha, and the best example can be found from the Narad Parivarajak Upanishad, where there are certain guidelines that to attain the particular concept of moksha, one should not be bothered or should disrespect and endure any cruelty towards others, and that particular person should be treating them in an equal way. Even if that particular person is confronted or invoked by some angry person, the reply of that person should not be in anger, but with soft and kind words. Even if that person is tortured, he should not speak, sorry, he should be speaking truth and the truth and trust others. There should be no craving for blessings or any kind of praise from the others. He should not be hungry, or he or she should not be hungry for any kind of praises. Then there should be no violence from this particular part. The core concept of Buddhism and Jainism are based on the concept of non-violence, that is ahimsa, and that person should be intended in the welfare of all beings. The person should be comfortable being alone as in the presence of others, and he should be humble, high-spirited, of clear and steady mind, straightforward, compassionate, passionate, and patient, indifferent, courageous, and should be firmly speaking with sweet words. So these are 7 markers of how to achieve moksha from the Upanishad called Narad Parivarajak Upanishad. Then comes the concept about the materialistic temple. We were talking about the philosophical way of temple. Now comes the materialistic concept, that is the tirtha and the temples. So tirtha. So in today's time, we talk about tirtha, but in previous times or in the ancient times, the concept of tirtha was segregated in 2 different ways. That is the tirtha and the kshetra. And the earliest reference we found of tirtha kshetra or tirtha and kshetra into different ways is from the Mahabharata epic, where most of the Tirtha Kshetras should be residing or should be placed at the river bank or any particular water bodies. Why? Because water is the purifying and fertilizing element being present. Its current, which is the river of life, can be forded in inner realization, and the pilgrim can cross over to the shore. Even in many temples, even in South India, even today, we can see the water tank or the water reservoir outside the temple or in the inner premises of the temple. This we will be studying in detail when we will be talking about the Dravidian architecture. So over here, if you see any particular temple or any particular Tirtha Kshetra, they will be situated in any kind or at the mouth or near to the water bodies. For example, all the 12 Jyotirling of Shaivism are situated beneath the river or on the river banks, or most of the Shaivite temples are close to water bodies. Somnath temple is the only Jyotirling along with the Rameshwaram, which is situated on the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean concept. So over here, water bodies do make the core value and influence in this particular concept. And the certain important markers or the earlier cities which were Tirtha Kshetra were the where the concept of moksha was achieved, that is the Vedic, yogic, and bhakti moksha, was Ayodhya, Mathura, Gaya, Kashi. In the North India, Kanchipuram, Avantika. Avantika is modern day Madhya Pradesh. Dwarka, Madurai, Ujjain, and Somnath. And certain cities have also proven that these were the core centers not only for Hinduism but also for the concept of Brahminical religion, Buddhism, as well as Jainism. When we talk about Gaya, Gaya is the place where Hindus do the paternal rites, but Gaya is also the place for where Buddha had achieved his enlightenment. Kanchipuram is considered as a city of temples, but 17 stupas had been found. Ayodhya and Mathura, they are highly related with the both as the birthplaces of Ram and Krishna, being the incarnation of Vishnu. But these are the places where certain Jain Tirthankars were born as well. So over here, these concepts are affiliated with the moksha, which is inclined to the proper temple, be it the Brahminical temple or the Buddhist stupa or the Jain temple. Then there is one particular teeth where one should always bathe, and this is the teeth of mind, that is the Manas Tirtha. So certain temples which are situated in a particular desertified area or any particular snow-clad area where water bodies are not accessible, so certain water parameters are approached towards a temple where the person should be is believed to be taking bath or cleansing himself philosophically. Then again, certain literary evidence talks that the divinity always play their roles where lakes are there, where sun rays are warded off by the umbrellas of lotus leaf clusters, and where clear water paths are made by swans whose breasts toss the white lotus hither and thither. Swans, ducks also are considered as one of the important parts in the Hinduism, where the gods have always played their important role, where groves are near rivers, mountains, and springs, and in towns with pleasure gardens. And this particular concept is also being found in the Vishnu Dharmottar Puran. There are 18 Purans in general, which were composed from 3rd century CE to almost 13th century CE. And Vishnu Dharmottar Puran, which talks about temples in detail, was composed back in 4th, 5th century, which says that installations of the temple or particular idol should be made in forts in auspicious cities at the head of shop-lined streets in villages or hamlets of cowherds. It should be also made at the riverside, which we have gone in the discussion in the previous slide. In a very simpler way, you will be coming across temples in every particular parameter. So, for example, the Madurai Meenakshi Amman temple, in today's time, it is a temple built on the land or on the plain region. But when we try to understand the word Madurai, so Madurai in Tamil means Mahadurrai. So Maha means great, and Durrai in the ancient Tamil or in the Sangam Tamil was considered as the fort walls. So the great fort walls of Madurai were the place of the installation of the Meenakshi temple. Auspicious cities like Kanchipuram, Ujjain, Somnath, Dwarka are the place where the commercial activities takes place, because temples are built at that particular place where there should be the interaction of not only the village or city community, but the pan-Indian society can gather at this particular place. Even certain times the foreigners do invoke the concept of the temple architecture because the commercial activities are being pursued over there. Then comes the historical achievements or the historical proving of the temple. So starting with the Vedic period, so as I had mentioned that no concept of temple was there in the Vedic period, but the nature-oriented gods were worshipped through the fire sacrifice. So these gods were Agni, the fire god, Varun, the god of waters and seas, Indra, the god of rains, Vayu, the god of wind, Surya, the sun god, Chandra, the moon god. And the same particular concept was found in the goddesses too, where Prithvi, Mother Earth, was there. Then Usha, the rising dawn, Saraswati, the river, and Nritti, the aggressive forms of the goddess. So these particular gods and goddesses were nature oriented because they were helping the humans of Vedic period civilization in pursuing that particular community, where the highest markers were given to the nature worship. But but after the Vedic period ends, there are certain particular references which where we find the temples of the Vedic gods and goddesses for the and the earliest example has been found in the Valmiki Ramayana. It was composed back in 1st century CE, where the temples were attributed to certain Vedic gods in the Kosala kingdom. Kosala kingdom is the same place where Ayodhya is situated, where Ram was born. Even in the 4th century BCE text of Ashtadhyayi, which was composed by the famous grammarian of ancient India called Panini, he says that certain temples or idols of Agni, Indra, Varun, Rudra. Rudra is the ancient Vedic name of Shiv. Mrid, Posh, Surya. Posh is the name of Surya and Vishnu. Surya and Mrida are the name of Surya himself, were being worshipped. Even the feminine temples of Indrani, Varunani, Usha, Bhavani, and Prithvi were built too. Or if temples were not there, then idols were worshipped too. 2nd century BCE is Mahabhashya, which was composed by Patanjali, about the Dhanapati temple. Dhanapati was the ancient name which was given to Kuber, which is considered as the god of wealth and finances. And the earlier temples were dedicated to Ram and Keshava. So these are the earliest names of Vishnu. Vishnu word comes from the Puranic literature, but in the earlier temples, the Vishnu temples were mostly called as Bhagavat temple, where he was known by the name of Ram, Keshav, Vasudev, and so on and so forth. Even the Kautilya's Arthashastra of 4th century BCE talks about certain Vedic and Puranic deities too. Then comes the archaeological concept of the temple, where the earliest temples have been found in the Indian subcontinent. So the earliest temples which are found are from the tribal communities called the Yodayas. Yodayas were technically ruling the modern day areas of Haryana and Punjab, and Punjab of both India and Pakistan. And they had claimed their ancestry from the Mahabharata figure of Yudhishthir, who were ruling from mid-2nd century BCE to 4th century CE. So Yodayas were technically considered as the markers of the proper structural Indian temple, where Kartikeya was considered as one of the chief deities. And this is how the temples of Yodayas were looking like. Now over here, this particular coin which was found from the Yodaya period at a particular place called Kunal, at a particular place called Rupar in Punjab. So over here we can see that a temple has been dedicated, but over here a peacock has been figured. So this is the sketch version of the same particular coin. So over here a temple is there. As we can see that the base of a temple, the mandap, the gathering place, and the temple towers have been built. And over here, a peacock has been built, but we cannot see any particular deity any particular idol of Kartikeya. This was the time period where the gods or goddesses were worshipped not from their idealistic purpose, but from their mount or vehicle purpose. So peacock was the mount or vahan for Kartikeya. So that is why we can see a peacock figure. Bull was found on the certain coins, which was the mount of Shiva. Garud was there for Vishnu. Tiger or lion were there for goddess. So these are the certain coins which have provided that the earlier references of the temple. So over here we can see a raised platform with or without symbol. So over here we can see the same temple of Kartikeya over here without any particular symbol. Raised platform under an umbrella or chhatra. So over here, if you can see, these are two temples where the chhatra or the umbrella has been depicted. A raised platform under a tree. Trees have also been considered as the auspicious part of the temple architecture. So over here, this particular concept is of the tree railing, as the trees like bamboo tree or the banyan tree are considered as auspicious in the temple architecture. Then comes the raised platform with the enclosed railing. So over here, if you see these temples, so these outlines and this particular temple, these are the railings, that is the enclosed walls. And inside a pillared pavilion. So over here, if you see, every temple is situated inside a pillared pavilion, that is the pillared halls. After Yodayas, another particular tribes community came into picture, or a tribal community came into picture. That was Audambaras. Audambaras were ruling from 1st century BCE itself in southern Haryana as well as northern Rajasthan. And over here we can see the earliest markers of a temple where we can see battle axe. So over here, when we see these battle axe, so this can be any particular temple, be it of a Ganesh temple or a Parshuram temple or a Shiva temple, because X was the supreme or standard weapon of these particular gods. And again, we can see that the railings have been depicted, or a plant sapling or a tree sapling has been depicted in one particular part of coin, whereas in the reverse part of coins with the inscription, we can see a temple figure or a temple structure in the place. Then comes the accurate concept of the earliest temple, where we get from a place called Vidisha. So over here we have to see that even the historical figures have played their important roles in the construction of early temples. So in the 2nd century, 1st century BCE, where the northern West India or Northwest India was ruled by Indo-Greeks, and the central as well as eastern India was ruled by a dynasty called Shunga dynasty, where the two kings, Antilochidus in northwest and Kashiputra Bhagbhadra in the central India, were two primary kings. So to have a proper alliances, this particular figure, Antilochidus, sends his ambassador called Heliodorus to Vidisha, and at a particular place called Besnagar in Vidisha, that is currently in Madhya Pradesh. This particular person, Heliodorus, had erected a Garuda pillar of Bhagavad cult. Now I had just mentioned that Garuda was also the marker of the early Vaishnavite practices and rituals. Garuda being the mount of Vishnu, that's why Garud pillar was inscribed. So if you can see that this is the place where Takshashila is situated in northwest India. This is the place where Vidisha is there. So there should be no wars between two dynasties. The alliance was fought, or the regional alliance was sorted, when a particular person called Heliodorus had converted to Vaishnavism or Bhagavad cult by erecting a Garuda pillar. And how do we come to know? From this particular 10-liner inscription, which says that this Garuda standard of Vasudev, that is the pillar of Krishna or Vishnu, the god of gods, was erected here by a devotee called Heliodorus, the son of Dion, who was the man as the resident of Takshashila. He had been sent by great Yona king, that is the Yavan king or the Greek king, Antilochidus, as an ambassador to the king of to the court of Kashiputra Bhagbhadra, who was the son from the princess of Banaras. Banaras' ancient name was Kashi. And this particular episode happened in the 14th regnal year of this king called Kashiputra. And when the proper excavations were conducted by the Archaeological Survey of India back in 1963-65, so a complete temple was found where the archaeologists had found an ancient elliptical foundation, extensive floorings, and plinth being produced from burnt bricks. So the earlier temples were mostly made up of three particular materials. The one was clay, another one was bricks, and the third one was the stone. And the same particular part of the early temples was played in Rajasthan too. So a particular place called Nagar. So Nagar is a place in Chittorgarh district of Rajasthan, where the temple of again Bhagavad cult was being found. So over here, if you see this two images, these are from the Nagar excavation, which had taken place in 1965, conducted by the Archaeological Survey of India. So over here, if you see, this is how the early temples were looking like, in an elliptical circular way, because the early temples or the ancient temples were not always made on the square or in the rectangular platforms. And if you see these two pits, these were the archaeological trenches which were laid out for the excavation, and from the trench the complete temple was found. This is the wall dividing the two trenches. And again, if you see the debris or the stone debris fallen on both the sides of the trench, these might have been the raising walls or the outer walls of this particular temple dedicated to Bhagavad cult to Krishna or Vishnu. And this is how the modern day sites look like. So over here we can see that this is the place where the Besnagar temple is situated, where we can see that the raised platform has been made with on top of which the medieval Sufi mausoleum has been placed. So certain terms did came for temple architecture too, as the several terminologies changed from 1st century BCE to 3rd century CE, where temple was named for but temple was also called by several names, that is the prasada or pasada. It was also called as Sthana, Mahasthan, Devalaya. Devalaya is still being used today. Devagraha, Devakula, Devakulika. Devakulika were the goddess temples. Ayatana and Haramnya or Harmil. Then comes the literary evidence where we get the earliest reference of the temple. So the first particular literature, as in, or the important literature where we get the idea of temple architecture is from Brihad Samhita, which was composed by a person called Varamiki in 6th century CE at a place of Ujjain, where as in modern day Brihad Samhita only talks about astrology and astronomy, but the original literary evidence does talk about the concept of both astrology and astronomy being the important, showing its importance towards the temple architecture, which was composed in 100 chapter with 4,000 verses. And this is the medieval scripture or the manuscript for the Brihad Samhita. Then comes the another important concept or the another important literary evidence of Samrangan Sutradhar. Samrangan Sutradhar was composed in 10th, 11th century by a particular ruler called Raja Bhoj of Dhar. Dhar is a place in Madhya Pradesh, who was a Parmar ruler. Samrangan Sutradhar means the architect of human dwellings, as this particular ruler had composed this particular book at the midst of a battlefield. I regret to say this particular part that due to certain weather issues, the network issue has taken place. So that is why I am quickly trying to finish this particular lecture. And if there are no sessions for, as in, if the network is being lost in the Q&A session, so those who have joined the lecture, you can ask your question in the group itself. So that will be answered by me only in a WhatsApp group. Thank you for understanding this particular part. So this Samrangan Sutradhar is being composed in 7,430 verses with the 83 chapters, where chapters from 52 to 67 talks about certain important parameters of the temple architecture, where we also get the importance of town planning, that is the house architecture and temple towns, iconography, painting, and sculptural arts as well. Apart from that, the third important literature is the Aparajita Pracha, which was highly inspired from Samrangan Sutradhar in 12th century CE, which was composed by a person called Bhuvanadev, where we get the ideology of the Vastu Shastra as well as art and crafts. So what are the concept of iconography and what is the role of Vastu Shastra, and as in how Vastu and how every particular 8 directions in Hinduism are inspired and worshipped with the divinity concept in the temple architecture making. This particular literary evidence of Aparajita Pracha has the 75,000 verses, which took almost 200 years to get composed. So the inspiration started in 1000 BCE, which was finished in 1200 CE. Then comes the concept of Manasar. Manasar or Manasara Shilpa Shastra is again one of the Sanskrit treatises talking about Indian architecture and designs with the 10,000 verses of 70 chapters, which again talks about several ideologies of temple architecture. That temple should be surrounded by sculptures, houses, gardens, water tanks, as we have seen that the water bodies are playing out an important role in the temple architecture and laying out of other towns and cities as well. Then comes the concept of Manasar, which was highly understood by a particular Indologist who was P.K. Acharya, who had given a particular reference, that is the essence of measurement. 70th chapter of Manasar talks about the exact measurement or the size and shape of the temple in complete detail. So yes, this was it from my side. Thank you for hearing me out, and sorry that we had to go a slide faster at the end due to some weather issues. So yeah, this is where I end my lecture. Now, if there are any questions from your side, you can please ask it out. Any particular questions or any particular doubts? Amit sir, yes, I do understand that it was slightly fast because actually at my place there has been a massive power cut and my battery is about to die actually. That is why I had to conclude the lecture quite fast in the end due to very severe rains over here. Any books you recommend where we can get some theoretical reading for this? Yes, sir. We will be sharing certain books with you and certain important websites too. But let us complete this particular 7 days of this particular lecture series. As at the end of the lecture, certain books on the temple architecture and iconography will be shared with you, along with certain important websites too. Stillness absorbing can't learn more about structural iconography. Yes, this will be as in again very important thing from my side too, that I will be very happy to have the discussions about the temple architecture over you. They are from basic background, so but it's okay. Yes, sir. The books we will be sharing with you. So these are the books which have been composed and written for the layman to understand, and the wordings are quite simple. All wordings are quite simple as well, where you will be coming across several different kinds of temple architecture across the Indian subcontinent, and the sites which I have been as in the sites which will be shared with you both in the chat box, in the meeting, as well as in the WhatsApp group. So that particular site will be having will be giving you access to thousands of books, even the regional languages books also, which have been translated in English. Also meaning from the structural explanation with focus on architecture. Yes, ma'am. So certain architectures will be discussed in details, where we will be having the better understanding of what is the importance of certain architecture in at certain particular places. Any other doubts or any other questions? I hope I was able to make you understand. So I'll just have a very short, quick conclusion. So at the starting, we had understood the concept of the Vedic, Yogic, and Bhakti Moksha, where how we are able to achieve the concept of enlightenment and self-realization when we are about to preach the Lord inside the temple. Then we talked about the historicity of the temple, and in between we did realize and we did find the importance of the certain Tirtha Kshetras over here. And the historicity of the temple, we saw that what were the earlier temples looking like, as we saw on the point depictions of the tribal communities like Odambaras and Yodayas, and what were the early structural temples looking like in central India as well as western India, as we saw the Vaisnagar temple of Heliodorus pillar and the Nagara temple of Vasudev Vishnu being erected in 1st century BCE itself, and certain literary evidence like the Samrangan Sutradhar, Manasara, Brihad Samhita, Vishnu Dharmottar Puran, Aparajita Pracha, and so on and so forth. So this was the three-way lecture in which we were able to understand the importance and the earlier evidence of the temple architecture. Are you going to divide the architecture by east, west, north, south, and explain further? Yes, as in not in the copious details, but what is the Eastern architecture looking like? What is the meaning and importance of Western architecture, North Indian architecture, South Indian architecture, and these particular architecture will be discussed in detail. But in the upcoming lectures, where we'll be understanding that what are the different types and forms of temples. Yes, yes. So for the last time, any other question or any other doubts, even if as of sudden any particular doubt or question is not coming to your mind, and if these kinds of questions or doubts raises after the lecture has been finished or the meeting has been ended, you can always post your doubts or questions in the group, so they will be answered by me, and there will be a colleague of mine, Aishwarya. So either me or Aishwarya ma'am, they will be they will as in your questions will be answered. Would you be covering Jain architecture? Yes, we will be covering Jain architecture, as in we will be covering the certain important aspects of Jain architecture. Any other question or doubts? I'm looking forward for Ranakpur temple. Ranakpur temple, we will be as in since you have mentioned the name, so yes, I will be throwing some light on the Ranakpur temple too. That why Ranakpur temple is important. So yes, with this, I would like to end the meeting. And yeah, actually, just because of certain weather issues, the meeting is getting ended in 45 minutes only. But the lecture will go on for an hour, or it will slightly extended by an hour, depending upon the lecture. And tomorrow we will be discussing about the concept of the as in the concept of the Vastu Shastra and how temple is built, as in what are the steps and procedures for a temple to make. And after that, sorry, and along with that, we will be also going with this particular concept that which are the as in who are the people related or associated behind making a particular temple. That will be the discussion topic for tomorrow's lecture. Will there be experts content oriented towards landscape painting or temple architecture? Samir sir, yes, there will be certain temples where we will be discussing the paintings of temple architecture too, along with the landscapes. So whatever the queries or whatever the questions you have been on, as in which has been asked over here, so all the questions will be answered, but you have to just wait for the upcoming 6 lectures where all your questions will be answered and with the better and proper examples or with the accurate examples. Thank you, Samir sir. Yes, thank you, Sapna ma'am, again. So I hope I was able to make you understand today's lectural concept. And tomorrow we'll be meeting again at sharp 9 o'clock. And till that time, please take care of yourself. And those who are staying in Mumbai or any other place which is affected severely by heavy monsoon, please take care of yourself and be safe at your places and homes. This was it from my side. Thank you for hearing me out. Good
Thank
night
you.
and good.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for letting me know, Amit sir. Thank you.
Thanks.
Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.